I'm John Grafft, and I love Chicago real estate. Between showings, I stop in my favorite places, talk with local business owners, and bring their story to you. This is my Chicago.
So I know I'm going to mess this up. Commercial broker, board member of a publicly traded CBD company, co-owner of 3 Kilwins in Chicago, and on a family business level, you're a landlord. You have the luxury car dealership and golf courses, right?
Golf courses, 2 golf courses.
So we don't have 3 hours, but we're talking because I think you're a very interesting person and you have perspectives that are not standard in this business. And you look at things, I think, very objectively, and you're not the carpenter finding that hammer for every nail.
Right.
I think you look at this holistically from every vantage point. What are your thoughts on real estate today?
So as I was saying earlier, before the pandemic, I was pro apartments. Millennials, there were more millennials entering the market than there were apartments available for them, which is why you saw all the construction. That demographic typically is a 6-figure earner, and so they can afford the luxury of high amenity buildings with all the services and within the building, and they enjoy the urban lifestyle. Pandemic hit, COVID, all the changes as far as distance and what have you. Most buildings closed their amenity centers while they figured out what the new horizon looks like. Elevators were a big problem, and it's still a huge problem because you can't let as many people in the elevator as you used to. So if I'm a person living in a high rise, it takes me twice as long, if not 3 times as long, to get to my apartment or to leave my apartment. That's not sexy anymore, And then the retail, hospitality, restaurant business down here is not thriving like it used to be. So what am I paying for to be here? So the millennials have switched their game plan and decided to become homeowners sooner than later. And right now in the United States, there's a shortage of 4 million homes to the buyer pool. So you are going to continue to see the bid up of houses that, depending on who you talk to, are not worth it. But most people are reactionary. And so the FOMO theory kicks in. All right. So if I don't buy it today, I may not ever be able to afford it. But if we go back to 2009, when all the conversions were going on, there would be lines down the street to get it to buy a unit because fear of missing out. And then look what happened. So I don't know what it's going to take, but I think it's going to be a correction that unfortunately is going to hurt.
So you don't think the correction's happened yet?
No.
You think the knife is still falling?
I think the knife is still falling. I think, as we see the glut of luxury homes here in the city, I always say this: you follow the money. Those people are leaving. They're not moving from the Gold Coast to, Vista. That's a whole different buyer pool. That's new money. The old money is pulling out. Where they're going, I don't know. They're going,
Florida,
yeah.
Texas, places like
that.
that.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see. I just don't see what the excitement is about the city. We can talk about, it's coming back. Well, the city has a litany of problems right now that it needs to work through. It needs to work through crime. It needs to work through carjack. I mean, I can go on and on, but I won't get on that soapbox. But that's what I think. It's changed. People's emotions are set in place, and they're buying at a frenzy. And as a residential real estate broker, it's the greatest time to be in the business. Because you're servicing. If you don't do it, someone else is going to do it. You're servicing a need, a want, a desire. Does it make financial sense? Who am I?
So that's an interesting look. You and I bonded over that conversation because you think people should buy real estate?
I think people should buy investment real estate.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not a big believer in single-family homes because that's a debt. I don't care what you think about it. It's a non-performing asset. It will build equity based on the market, whereas investment real estate is you're making money on your money. It's hard money. It's not like Dogecoin. It's not this. It's there, all right.
Uh-huh.
As long as you're managing it properly, your tenants are paying their rents. You're providing quality housing. You shouldn't have a problem. My family operates 4 digits worth of apartment buildings throughout the United States, and we have management companies that are in great places. And we during the pandemic, in our worst building, we had 85% collections in our worst.
85% collections?
That we collected.
You were collecting. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
That was the worst building,
Yeah.
right? In one of the nicer neighborhoods. In the urban neighborhoods where some of them are located, we didn't have collection issues.
Do you think that's because people didn't have more options of places to go to?
I think because the white collar or service person, restaurants, what have you, they were the ones that lose their job.
Yeah.
But the nurses, the RNs, the Amazon workers, we have a bunch of people that work for Amazon that lives in a lot of our property. They still had jobs, so it was just normal. And and the other thing that's really crazy is just how are you going to get people to go back to work when you're throwing money at them? You can always tell when someone's got a stimulus check because you look right down there at Louis and Gucci and you see a line to get in. It's a joke.
There's been a line the entire pandemic.
Dude, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you need to, but I guarantee you they're not paying their rent because this city moratorium. That's, I understand what the thought was behind it, but the person who's hurting is the person you should be monitoring the most because the renter, when you finally evict them, you just get another tenant.
Yeah.
But if that landlord defaults, that's a credit default, and that trickles through the bank.
That's a domino effect.
Okay,
If that happens all over the country.
That's what I'm saying. And it's that Band-Aid is going to be lifted at some point. You just can't keep, you're pushing it out.
You're delaying the inevitable too. That's the funny thing. It's like we've all been dealing with this for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
We've come to terms with it. The medical information has changed, even though some people are acting like it's still March 2020.
Right.
We've learned a lot about this, and we're not responding
Absolutely,
like.
no.
And the moratorium on evictions that you're talking about, it's the same thing. It's like we're just pushing it away. We need to deal with it now.
It's crazy. I know people that have properties in the west, on the south side, and there's nothing they can do. The problem with there are grants to get the rent, but it's not landlord driven, it's tenant driven. And if the tenant doesn't be proactive about it, the landlord's stuck.
So the tenant can get their rent?
Yes.
The landlord can't get relief?
So the tenant can apply for a grant to get up to $5,000 to pay past rent and current and future rent.
Okay.
But the landlord can't apply for the tenant. The tenant has to activate it.
Interesting.
So if you have a rogue tenant, there's nothing you can do. You can't evict them. They're not going to go through the process.
I heard of landlords applying for that. I think this case was in New York, but he had his tenant's social security number and everything from the application. He did it for him. He got caught.
Yeah, and then you're creating fraud. It's a no-win.
Just because he wants to get paid, because he's
Absolutely.
fearful. He's
Absolutely.
doing that out of fear,
Yeah.
not out of want.
Yeah, that's all it is. They're just looking for some remuneration during this process. It's absolutely crazy, but it's an inevitable. The banks, when this all started, the banks were very lenient with apartment buildings and owners, and they said, "Listen, we'll work it out. We'll put it on the back end of your loan." But at some point, you need to start dealing with this, and I don't know what the answer is.
So, if you're a 30-something couple right now, you're having a child, you're looking at what to do next. Maybe you're not having a child. Just say 30-something, no kids actually. And you're looking at condos, you're looking at apartments to rent, or you're looking at buying a building. Maybe it's a 2-flat, 3-flat. Explain the different thought processes on each.
Okay, so if I'm a 30-some couple and I don't want to be a landlord and I want to live in the city, condo, And you want to own because that's what you've been.
Let's talk. So the idea of ownership. What most people don't talk about is immediately, as soon as they sell that property, they're going to lose 8%, right? Around 8%, they're going to pay broker's commissions.
Absolutely.
They're going to pay the city, the state, the county.
Absolutely.
They're going to lose that immediately.
Yep.
And brokers are always of the disposition, if you're not buying, you're burning money.
Right.
I don't believe that.
No.
I know you don't believe that.
Not at all.
And it's all situational.
Yep.
There's a time and a place for everything.
Right. I mean, because as a 30-something couple, you may say, you know what, we're going to be in Lincoln Park for the next 30 years. Okay, fine. Okay, you found this house, you're going to grow into this house. It may be more house than you need right now, but you're not leaving. Because that's what our parents did in the past. They would buy their little tract home and raise a family. And that home, they paid it off in 30 years because they were there the whole time.
That's suburban lifestyle.
That's suburban lifestyle. So here in the city, I am of the belief that if you are not going to be here, and most millennials are white collar employees that are most likely going to have a job transfer or promotion that's going to take them outside of here. So
the average person, I think it's 3 to 5 times in their life that will happen. So it's guaranteed statistically.
So you are when you buy a place in the city, you're already behind 10% at the closing. Okay, so you buy a place for $300,000. It's really now at $270 if you went to turn around and sell it. You already lost 30. So that you got to catch up and then move ahead to make it all worth it. You be smarter to. And this is where I go back to investment property. If you're going to live in the city, pick a neighborhood you want to live in. It doesn't take much to be a landlord. Your first place, buy a 2-flat. Minimize the housing costs as much as you can. If you don't need the money from the rental, use it to pay down the mortgage as quickly as you can. And then as your lifestyles start to change, then the housing will change accordingly. Because you may get a job transfer and take you to Seattle or whatever. Now you have a 2-unit investment property. It still is generating income for you.
And so you have that cash flow producing asset. You can hold on to it if you want to manage it from abroad or find someone to do that for you. You can sell it, and at least you have something that's producing revenue for someone.
Right.
And that's part of your argument, right?
Absolutely. And there's, and that is, the residential market will ebb and flow like this. Apartment buildings, as long as the income is there, you're not going to have value fluctuation.
Okay.
Okay.
So less volatility.
Less volatility. You have, the way you can look at it is like this. You can expect to keep a tenant by raising the rent 3%, and you can get a new tenant with 5%. So, if you plan it out and look out 5 years, and you figure out your expenses are going to grow at 2% a year, you can see what your total return is for that holding period. And 5 years is usually a magic window, because that's when most debt comes due. So at that time, you have a choice. You can recapitalize, pull equity out to go and keep the property to move into something else. You can just refi for term, or
what does that mean?
Refi for term means whatever the exist. Like you get a house or buy an apartment building today. The rate's 5%. At the end of the loan, you have to refinance that balance, and you just say, I don't want any more money. Just take the balance and redo the terms.
Okay. So you're not pulling any equity out. You're just getting a better interest rate and getting a new financial vehicle.
Rate and term refinance.
So why is it 5%? Why is it 5 years?
Most commercial lenders, because they can't offer commercial real estate or commercial mortgages beyond a 5-year window. It's a federal thing. I never quite understood that myself.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's 10-year. They do have 7 and 10-year, but ideally they only want to keep on the books for 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's typically a balloon type mortgage?
It's typically a balloon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They have to redo the loan altogether. It's a whole separate loan, and that's beyond my pay grade.
How'd you end up with thousands of doors?
So
not end up like you found it on the street, but
so
how'd you get there?
When I was 19, when I was 19, I bought my first place in Lisle, which is a condo, and then from there, I had a roommate, and his parents actually paying more than what it was costing me to own, because student housing was ridiculous. But $24,000 what I paid for the condo back then, and it was like 2 bedrooms, 2 baths.
So it's 1950.
Eat-in kitchen. I still remember a corner unit, 2 parking spots, and so from there, at that time, we had a guy named Carlton Sheets, and I would just read and study, and I read the No Money Down and everything like. And one of the things that they said was you should try to buy a property every quarter. I did 2 properties a year, and so just kept building it up, and it got to a point where we would start buying properties across the United States in high income, high rent districts, but we'd buy older units, fix them up, and then during the last real estate boom, we would go around to hotels. There was like in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, and we would buy units there. So like the W Fort Lauderdale, we have units in the residential part and units in the hotel part.
How do those work?
What do you mean? So they manage. It's completely turnkey.
I've seen those in Trump, but and here that's not common. In
no,
Chicago,
and here's
it's not a common thing.
but in your coastal areas it is.
Okay. And how do those operate? I know nothing about it.
So just think of, they manage it. So when you go to reserve a hotel room, they have X number of units available, and then you rent one, but that rent is actually going to the management company, whether it's Marriott or whoever. Then there's a certain fee that they charge for maintenance and cleaning and all that, and then at the end of the quarter, you get a check.
And so the hotel manages that whole process for you?
Yeah, it's all hands off.
And so did you see a particular opportunity in the market to get into that segment of the business? How did you identify that?
So it was just something other than straight, like, for example, there's residential, what do you call it? Residential multifamily, there's student housing, there's mobile homes, there's all different types, and it was just for us diversifying in our apartment portfolio.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does your portfolio consist of currently?
High rises, 2 high rises in Detroit, a townhome development, and then most of the other things are apartment buildings, 2 to 10 units, and then condos throughout Boston, Florida, Seattle, LA,
So most people would say a condo is a terrible investment from an investor standpoint.
It is. We've had these for a long time. We haven't bought anything new.
Okay.
The last real estate we bought was Lafayette Towers in Detroit, and that was in November. That was November in 2012.
Okay.
We haven't bought anything else, and everything is whole. So we get offers all the time to buy these places. The problem is we're not looking to leverage up. We're not looking to 1031 into anything else. These things just come up just like the golf courses. Bank came to us and said, we're foreclosing on these. We think these will fit your portfolio. Okay, fine.
How did the bank know to talk to you?
I don't want to go into the specifics,
okay,
but you can just Google it.
Okay.
Some things just leave off the table. But if you have very good banking relationships, they'll come to you.
And why a golf course? That would scare me. One thing, I don't
know
anything about golf.
So here's the funny thing. I have yet to go to either one of them.
You've never visited them?
I've never visited them. But I will say this. I think, and I won't identify where they're located, but I think if everyone knew that they were owned by black people, it would blow their mind. Because they're in some of the most prominent, these two are in some of the most prominent white neighborhood communities you can think of. And we'll leave it like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kilwins is a huge brand.
Mm-hmm.
People know it.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get involved in that?
So when I was a lender, I had my assistant who was a teacher or assistant, or no, she was an administrative person for Chicago Public School on Clark Street. And she started work. She came to me to refinance our home because she wanted to get a divorce. And
wait, hold on. She was getting divorced, so she wanted the refinance?
Yeah, to pay him off. She
wanted to pay him off through the refinance and say goodbye.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just took her under my wing and I said, come work with me. So we were doing all the conversions. We would buy she would manage all those contracts for all the conversions, and we would do deals together. And then she said in 2005, I'm bored. So I just said, find a franchise, and if you like it, I'll put up the money and you run it. And the rest is history. She was in Florida. She started sending me photos and emails. And Kilwins. So our first one was in Orland Park because we didn't want to come to the city and make them and fall flat on our face. So we cut our teeth in Orland Park, and then the market crashed, the real estate market crashed, and it just dried up.
I had no idea you've been doing that for that long.
Yeah,
Okay.
so then from there, we went to Old Town, and think about Old Town in 2009. It was still not as
It's not what it is today.
right? And we were next to Orso's. So when we opened there, though, we became the Chicago Magazine said we were the #1 fudge in the city. Sorry, Margie. And that took off. And then Jackie's African American, and that just whole city thing. So the University of Chicago came to us and said, we would love to have a Kilwins in Hyde Park. We're redeveloping all that, and that's how we went to Hyde Park. And then we did a test run at Queens Landing, and we would do that seasonal. And then
That's smart.
Yeah, and then we started it was funny. We just started walking Michigan Avenue one day, and where Dylan's was at the Tribune Tower, that's what we looked at originally.
That was the original idea?
Yeah, and
That's a great location.
Yeah, and we were just like, we couldn't afford it, and we couldn't afford it, and Fannie Mae was too close.
Okay.
And so the thing we thought about the park is that a park is a destination, and most likely they're going to keep going to the tourism museums.
Yeah.
And so we said that'll be a great spot.
Well, everyone gets hungry being in the park.
Yeah.
I know I've been with people a number of times, and you're looking across the street like, what's open? What can we get? Because no one wants to walk that far either.
No. And so we went there, and even though it's South Michigan Avenue, it's still the high rent district. And from there, we always wanted to go. We were looking at going to the airports, and from the airports, we decided Navy Pier would be the final destination.
Okay.
And so, we're almost ready. We should have that open in a month.
Okay.
Yeah. And
What's going on in Navy Pier now?
There's a hotel, and then they closed the IMAX theater, and then it's just rebrand. I say that it's just rebranding. It's Navy Pier.
Okay.
It's still Navy Pier. But we took over a spot. I forget the restaurant that was there, and just repurposed it. So.
I remember we talked about this in the past, and you mentioned during a recession the things that still did well. What were they? So
during a recession, you're still going to have ice cream, comfort food, and chocolates and popcorn. Garrett's, look at Garrett's is the best story.
Garrett's in Dubai. It's
crazy. It's nuts,
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we should only be so big, but those are the comfort food. Your kids want it. You're going to use it's comfort food for the adults, and so it's one of those things. We are a high price point, or at least we were when we first came to Chicago. But most people are now comfortable with it because there's a difference in quality.
That price creep is amazing. How high things have gotten, but the comfort that people have with it, they're totally fine with it.
Right, absolutely.
People appreciate it. It's about the experience.
It's funny. I remember the first time we opened in Orland Park, the lady goes, $5, I can get 3 ice cream cones at Baskin Robbins. I'm like, well, this isn't a Baskin Robbins, in the story. But no one, we get people every now and then that say, man, your prices are high. But those are far and few between, and I don't know where they come from because but I can say it about anything. So
the Vape company, the CBD company. How'd you get involved in that?
So that was a friend of mine who I met in 2008 at NV Penthouse Lounge, I think it was, and we just became friends. And then he started in his house in Kenosha. He just started making these vapes and go around putting them into vape shops and everything. And then it just grew from there. And then we got approached by a publicly traded company that said we would like to buy you and then put you guys on the board. And we are, it's nuts. I mean, we did a total of $2 million last year. We have already done over $5 million, and we are targeted to do 20. And it's crazy. It's just crazy how that. But that's another. There's edible. It's just once again, people amaze me every day.
Well, that industry's it's really just starting.
All right.
Right.
And that's another one. I like people ask me what. I have no idea what it is. I've never tried it. I don't want to try it. But the stuff flies off the shelf. We can't make it fast enough. It's crazy, absolutely crazy.
So a lot of people look at investing and they say, I want to invest in things I love or things I care about. You look at something that looks profitable.
So here's the way I look at it, and this is going to sound. I don't know how it's going to sound. I'm just going to say it like it is. The vast majority of people are lost. And when I say they're lost, they don't know what their purpose is in life, and they're just going through the motions. And whether it's comfort food, or whether it's alternating drugs, you know, it's crazy. I mean, I just sit back and watch, you know. And it's like I can either be a participant or I can be an entertainer. So to me, this stuff is just entertainment. You know,
it's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
You're either on the stage or in the audience.
Right.
You like to look at yourself as on the stage, looking in.
Yeah.
You know, I told a number of brokers I was doing this and what the topic was, and they're like, why would you tell people not to buy?
Right.
They're like, you can't do that. I'm like, I think too many brokers underestimate the intelligence of their clients.
Absolutely.
And they abuse the trust factor.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen...
I'll put it like this. I've never seen anyone post, this property sucks, but you should buy it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, every property in the world is gorgeous.
It's great. It's the best.
Oh my God, it's the best. Dude, come on. But unfortunately, people buy into it. You know.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people are obsessed with home ownership?
So it goes through everything. I mean, you know, why does the woman have to wear Christian Louis Vuitton versus Payless? All right. Why do people go out and spend crazy amount of money on gym shoes and Yeezys? It gives them something.
Status.
But it's only in their circle. You know, that money, like I know somebody who has $30,000 in gym shoes. Like, dude, $30,000 in gym shoes. Do you really, what, I mean.
Well, that's not worth $30,000 either.
No, that's what he spent. But I'm saying,
Yeah.
dude, if you had invested that properly, okay, but they are professional consumers, and that's what most people are, just consumers.
I like that, professional consumer.
Yeah, that's all they are. I mean, it's crazy. You know, it's okay to want nice things, but you should be able to afford nice things. Meaning that, you know, if you want to buy Christian Louis Vuitton shoes, it's a fragment.
It's not even a thought that
It's
you
not
can
even a
afford it.
thought.
It's not even about the affording it.
Exactly. But unfortunately, I mean, I see, you know, it's always, it's I can't say the word on camera, but it's interesting. You watch a real estate broker just starts in business, and then as they grow and they get a little money, you know, then all of a sudden it goes from the off the rack at Hugo Boss to custom. All right, because they think that's what it's supposed to be. No, bro, no. This is a Kenneth Cole unlisted, okay? Dude, come on.
My suits are custom. You're hurting my feelings here.
No,
they're
but
cheap. They're cheaper than off the rack, though.
But they are. Let's see the thing. They are cheaper than off the rack. But
Yeah.
most people are not smart enough to realize that, and are doing it.
They're doing it for the wrong reason.
They're doing it for the wrong reason.
I had the same conversation with somebody who was buying suits at Burberry. I think it was Burberry. And I was like, just get something custom made for you. It'll fit you beautifully.
I mean,
who cares what the tag says
And
inside?
I won't lie. So Nicholas Joseph is my go-to.
Okay.
All right, and Katie was the one that sat me down, and I still back almost 10 years ago, sat me down and said, okay, you can go to Hugo Boss, you can spend $795, and then you're gonna spend $200 to alter it.
Yep.
For $795, you can get a custom-made suit fit to you.
Yeah.
If you're gonna buy a suit, buy it. I mean, that makes sense. But but most people, they'll go to Brioni and dude,
No.
come
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
okay? But it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But like I said, professional consumers.
Speaking of nice things, what's the name of your car dealership?
Mercedes-Benz St. Clair Shores.
Okay.
Prestige Automotive Group.
Prestige Automotive Group. And what is that?
So it's just a holding company of luxury product line, which I won't identify for some of them. We're a partnership in a lot of dealerships in Florida.
Okay. Can you
we-
not say one brand with another?
No.
Is that part of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
But I'm going to say it. I mean, the nicest cars you know of.
yeah,
You guys
they're
have
part
them.
of the portfolio. We own the real estate that most of them operate out of, and so in the early mid 2000s, we were the first minority-owned dealership ever to gross $1 billion in sales. We did it consistently. To this day, there's only been 2. The CEO of BET, the past CEO of BET, and then us. And we moved away from sales, and that's why our partnerships. But we kept the real estate that a lot of them operate on, and because that makes us landlords. So going back to the portfolio, apartment buildings, and then single tenant leases.
So I mean, you're McDonald's, and these guys you own the land,
Right.
and they're paying you every month, and that's the McDonald's model, right? That's what made them really famous.
And it's just, once again, it's just a diversification of the portfolio. Yeah.
So what's next?
I don't know, but I really don't know. I ask myself that question quite a bit. I'm collaborating with other brokerage firms to. The way I look at it like this: I'm not the end all, be all, and know everything and have everything. There are great talent in different companies,
Yeah.
and I'm beginning to collaborate in different markets with them. So capitalize on their strengths. I'm the apartment guy, and and they can bring the business, and and it's a joint venture, or not joint venture. We're just splitting, and that's more exciting than anything else right now. So that's what I'm doing. First one we're doing is Keller Williams.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to find an apartment building, they should reach out to you directly.
Yeah.
Looking for any type of investment property in the city, or just primarily apartment buildings?
No, they can look for because they can look for if they're looking for anything commercial related. Because my team, we handle ground up land, new construction, repurposing, single landlord and tenant representation as well. So we're doing quite a few things out in the Naperville area, which this year become public because they'll be finalized, and so and those we're working on for about a year and a half. In this outside of port, my bread and butter I handle apartments. I underwrite apartments all day, every day, whether they're local or national, what have you.
And for people that don't know, underwriting means what?
Underwriting means determining the value and determining whether or not a property is worth what is being offered or being asked.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's the same way. The easiest way for most people to understand it: you buy a house, you apply for a loan. There's an underwriter that's underwriting you. In the commercial world, the underwriting is underwriting the asset.
Is the asset's more important than the individual?
The asset has to qualify to pay for itself. You're just the guarantor that if someone is not making rent, you can make the difference.
Okay.
You keep the debt. Yeah. But primarily, if that building is not making money,
Doesn't matter.
You can't get it.
Yeah.
You can get it, but rather than the standard 20% down, you're gonna have to bring the loan balance down to the number that the building can pay for itself.
So the cash flow can start to make sense.
And typically, it's for every $1 mortgage payment, you need to have $1.25 left over after expenses.
Explain that again.
So it's called a debt coverage ratio. So you have your gross, all your income sources from the building, whether it's a laundromat, application fees, leases, then your taxes, your insurance, your rent, your repairs and maintenance, your landscaping, your snow removal, all that. And then what's left is net operating income. That net operating income needs to be 1.25 times what the debt is to pay for that building.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for doing this.
My pleasure.
I've been trying to do it for forever. I'm
I
glad it
know.
finally happened.
I know, right? It was
Yeah.
crazy, but no, I'm glad it worked out to be a perfect day.
Yeah, the sun came out.
And now I had to head back to Naperville and at a 2:00 conference call. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
All right.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.